Hey guys, today is the second day of thoughts leading into NAWCQ, and we'll be talking about Mystic Mine and sort of the path it's taken through this format and how your read of the rate at which people are going to be playing the card, whether or not people are going to be playing cards in accordance to its existence in the format, can inform your deck building decisions. What kind of deck are you going to choose? And even once you've chosen a deck, what sort of tech cards are you going to include in it? So, Mystic Mine is obviously a very powerful floodgate. It denies monster effects and attacks to the player who has more monsters on their side of the field. Obviously, that's crazy. That's sort of a skill drain field spell, but it also denies poking with monsters, so decks can just kind of sit on it, stall out the game for as long as they want to. The only way of getting rid of it generally is through spell and trap destruction, so Twin Twisters, Cosmic Cyclone, Heavy Storm Duster, those sorts of cards are kind of your only answer. It sort of reminds of Vanity's Emptiness in that it demands a very specific sort of answer in the deck, or really you just lose. So at the beginning of the format, a lot of people were really hyped about Mystic Mine, and so everyone included it in their deck. There's a lot of Mine Sky Strikers. There were some people who were just sort of against the idea of Mine and Strikers and didn't play it, but there were quite a few Sky Striker lists playing Mystic Mine. You also saw it occasionally in decks like Altergeist and Guru Control who were playing Metaverse. Over time, Mystic Mine would eventually spread to other decks like Orchist and occasionally to the side decks of decks like Salamangreat or even Thunder Dragons themselves. But just kind of initially it was a thing in Strikers, it was a thing in Mystic Mine Burn, which people were pretty high on at the time. And so eventually everyone played a lot of main deck spell and trap destruction. You saw a lot of lists with 2 or 3 Twin Twisters in the main deck, or a couple Heavy Storm Duster if you're playing a trap heavy deck, pretty much just for fear that you're going to get locked under Mystic Mine and be completely unable to do anything. As an especially big fear if you were playing a monster heavy deck like Thunder Dragons, and so many of them dropped Sekka's Light in favor of main deck spell and trap destruction. After a while, people played so much spell and trap destruction that Mystic Mine just didn't really seem to make much sense anymore. If you were playing it, generally it was just about to get destroyed right off the bat, and so your resources were better off towards progressing your own board state or other forms of disruption against your opponent. That opened up the path for Thunder Dragons to really surge in the format. They've sort of been up and down, and I think that their up and downness is in direct relation to Mystic Mine being in the format. There's also some degree to which the more spell and trap destruction there is, the better off they are, because, you know, Twin Twisters just doesn't really do anything to their board. It is all monster negates as opposed to the other decks in the format, and so they're just really not bothered by spell and trap destruction. Those are dead cards against them. But for the most part, I think Mystic Mine is the more important factor when considering Thunder Dragons in the format. And so we saw at YCS Knoxville to some degree, while Orchists, some of the topping builds did adopt Mystic Mine, a lot of decks were dropping it also. There were quite a few that weren't playing it compared to the previous week. There were some regionals where the rate of play for Mystic Mine was super high, and then it dropped off a bit, and Thunder Dragons had a very good event. Slowly, once again, now that Thunder Dragons have become more relevant, Mystic Mine is raising in play. Even if it's not in the main deck, a lot of decks are just siding 3 of them, or they're more likely to include Metaverse if you're playing Sky Striker or Altergeist or something like that. And so that sort of begs the question, going into NAWCQ, is Mystic Mine going to continue to be a popular choice? I think it's still sort of on the rise again. I don't think it's at the peak popularity that it's had right now. It has definitely seen more play over the last few weeks, so it's still sort of rising. Are we going to expect it to continue to increase in play? Is it going to plateau? Could we actually see a decrease in the amount of its play? Are people anticipating that Spell and Trap Destruction is going to continue to increase in response to more Mystic Mines being played? And by that logic, maybe it's better to keep out Mystic Mine, because otherwise you're just going to have it destroyed or banished by a Cosmic Cyclone. You can opt for other cards, combo pieces for your own deck if you're playing Orcust or Thunder Dragons. And the other kind of side of it is, if you think there's going to be more Spell and Trap Destruction, does that mean you should play Thunder Dragons? So, with the increase of Mystic Mine, you go, well, maybe I shouldn't play Thunder Dragons for this event. But like I just said, having more Spell and Trap Destruction in the format is actually also good for Thunder Dragons, which creates sort of this logic problem where, are you willing to hedge your bets against the chances of you losing to Mystic Mine in favor of free wins because your opponent has super dead cards in their hand that don't do anything to your deck? You can also take this into consideration when you're playing decks such as Altergeist. If you anticipate Mystic Mine to be a really strong choice, you don't anticipate there being a lot of Spell and Trap Destruction, Altergeist could be super, super good at the tournament. That could be maybe one of the better deck choices, if not the best deck choice. If you anticipate people to come in with Thunder Dragons, not necessarily with a lot of Spell or Trap Destruction, then Altergeist's ability to not only control the board with its own traps, but you also get access to the Mystic Mine. You can play Metaverse with it. It also has a lot of synergy because of Secret Village of the Spellcasters being a really strong counter to Sky Striker. So as players are finalizing their deck lists, or, I think a lot are still kind of choosing between Orcust Thunder Dragons, Salamangreat Great Striker, other rogue options, as they're considering which deck and their tech choices, you really have to consider, really it's asking players to make a read on the meta, to look around them, what's happening at locals, what's happening online, look at historical trends. Do you think there's going to be a lot of Mystic Mine? Do you think there's going to be Spell and Trap Destruction in response to that? Whether there really is going to be a lot of Mystic Mine or not? And what are the implications for its rate of play? I have a feeling that we're going to see a fairly high number of Thunder Dragon players, especially at top tables at NAWCQ, sort of regardless. Thunder Dragons seem to be a lot more popular in North America than they are in Europe, for whatever the reason. And so, really, Mystic Mine, whether you should play it or not, whether you want to play a strategy that incorporates it well, really just comes down, in my very personal opinion, make your own reads of the meta. It comes down to whether or not you think people are going to be playing Spell or Trap Destruction in large amounts in order to deal with it. Alternatively, the other way to go is, well, everyone's going to be playing Spell and Trap Destruction, so I'm not going to play Mystic Mine, and then all of a sudden there aren't any Mystic Mines at the event. So, yeah, do your own research, look at what's popular online, like on Dueling Book, there's all the rated duels. You can go to YGO to look at the statistics. You can look at all the topping deck lists that have been coming out recently, and hopefully you make the right read and have success at NAWCQ. So thank you very much for listening. This was today's thoughts going into NAWCQ. Mystic Mine. It's a really important meta-shaping card. Who would have thought? And I will see you guys later. Hopefully the next thought coming out tomorrow.